Boysenberry Oat Milk Sherbet. This is a really, really cool recipe because that oat milk base just kind of gives us this really, really full body texture. It's so creamy without the dairy. I love it. It's kind of the perfect ice cream for summer when you want something really, really refreshing. Hi, I'm Tyler Malek, the head ice cream maker here at Salt & Straw, and I've got a very special recipe. We are going to make a Boysenberry Oat Milk Sherbet. So this is vegan, and it's insanely good. It's just taking the best berries from the season and packing them into this dense, creamy vegan ice cream. So let's start. I've got a few ingredients here, a couple secret ones. First is oat milk. So this is specifically made for baristas, so it foams up really nicely. Just so happens to work really well for ice cream. In our kitchen, we actually do the same thing. We make our own oat milk. And then from there, I'm gonna use some boysenberries. For this one in particular, I'm using frozen. Frozen berries are often the best. They're picking them at their ripest and they're freezing them literally there at the farm. So I'm gonna roast these so they get some nice dark flavor. In our case, we're gonna make a berry puree. And if you wanted to add just a little bit of vanilla or cinnamon, this is a very, very universal base that you're gonna have a lot of fun with. I'm gonna start with sugar. Sugar is good in all ice cream. It's actually really important also for the way ice cream freezes. This is just a little bit of water to help hydrate that. And then two kind of special ingredients that are a little bit more unique. This is tapioca syrup or corn syrup. It's a glucose, so it's actually gonna give us a little bit of starch in the base, but it's also gonna give us an invert sugar, which is really important for the texture of the ice cream. And then I've got this little sneaky ingredient. This is called xanthan gum, but it's actually a really cool ingredient, especially for making vegan ice cream. We're often using it as an egg replacer. It'll kind of thicken it a little bit, but it's also gonna give us just this nice creamy texture, and it's gonna protect against heat shock or kind of ice crystallization in the ice cream itself. So I'll kind of whisk that in for us. I'm just gonna heat this a little bit. Really the trick is I want the sugar to melt into the water to create really a good clarified syrup. The cool thing is we're using the xanthan, and so the xanthan doesn't actually need heat to activate. It's not like cornstarch from that perspective. So I'm not going for a specific temperature. Really all I want is it to kind of come together in a clarified syrup, and then I'm gonna take it off heat and add the oat milk. Little tip here is I'm waiting to add the oat milk until after I've cooked it. I don't like taking things like oat milk or not even cream itself and cooking it too much, because honestly what's happening is when you heat it up, it's gonna take a lot of the fats and kind of separate them. It should take about 3 to 5 minutes. Really, really quick here. I'm gonna add 2 cups of oat milk. This is just the simplest, clean, oat-based ice cream base that we can flavor with really anything we want. So I'm gonna pop this in the fridge for a couple hours and it'll be ready to put in our ice cream machine. Okay, so here's the magic of the Boysenberry Oat Milk Sherbet. These are Pacific Northwest berries. What I want to do is I'm going to actually combine them with a little bit of sugar and roast them for about 15 minutes. And the flavors in the berries are going to condense. They're almost going to create this like jammy texture. And then I've got a couple different ingredients that I like to use to kind of cheat up the flavor a little bit. The first is a little bit of acid. So this is malic acid. You can either get citric acid, malic acid, tartaric acid. Adding a certain type of acid is actually going to just bring up some of the pop of the berry. Malic acid almost has more of that like green apple acidity to it, whereas like citric acid might have more of that lemon juice acidity to it. And then just a little bit of vanilla extract. I think that vanilla kind of marries the oats and the berries together. So what we'll do is just keep it really simple. Just toss these berries in a little bit of that sugar, and then load them onto a sheet tray. Try to make it nice and flat so you get a lot of surface area with the heat. And then I'm gonna bake these off for about 15 minutes, and you're gonna just start to see them kind of caramelize. We've had these berries in the oven for about 15 minutes, and you can see what happened to them. They started to shrivel up a little bit. The juices kind of steep out and they start bubbling. It starts to condense in flavor, and this is going to be the most amazing kind of combination or density of berry flavor. I'm going to add a little bit of acid and some vanilla extract and blend them all together to kind of create a puree. This is like the good stuff. Got a little vanilla extract, malic acid, really easy to get online, and then I use a stick blender, stand blender would work really well obviously too. So 15 minutes in the oven, turned it from some nice frozen berries to this intensely flavorful Boysenberry puree. I'm gonna put this in the cooler to chill down about 2 to 3 hours until it's just really perfectly ready for the ice cream machine. I let my oat base sit in the cooler for about 4 hours. Everything's kind of settled down. You can see it kind of clarified even more. It looks really beautiful. This is the Boysenberry puree we also made earlier. It's really simple. We're just gonna combine them. It's about 3 cups of the oat milk base to about 1 cup of the puree. I can just gently stir these together, then I'll load this into the machine. With this recipe in particular, it can still be a little clumpy. You don't have to get too intense about this. The machine is gonna finish stirring it for us. I just wanna get it in there as quick as possible. It's actually an incredible machine. It freezes over and over again, so I can make 10 different batches of ice cream in one day. I'll load this up, and then press go. So this will churn for about 25 minutes on this machine, and then it'll come out the kind of the perfect soft serve texture. At Salt and Straw, we started about 10 years ago making ice cream here in Portland. I think our dream was always to have the entire state of Oregon inspire us in how we create flavors. So, reaching out to the local farmers and learning about olives that are grown in Oregon, or reaching out to breweries to learn how to make beer into ice cream. That became my passion. So I think as we're making some of these flavors, you'll notice there's so much nuance of kind of food science and the beautiful ingredients we have access to in the state that really influence how we create flavors. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this Boysenberry sherbet. For some reason, vegan ice creams, sorbets, things like that, they love to collect air. So if we stop it a little bit earlier, we're actually gonna guarantee that it has a nice dense texture. These berries are so beautiful when they're dense. As you scoop through it, it's gonna be really, really heavy, and kind of like every single spoonful will be a field of berries. So there we have it, a pint of oat milk, Boysenberry sherbet. I love using this plastic pint container. This is kind of the same container you get like for a to-go soup. It's nice and thin, so it's gonna actually let all of the cold air from the freezer kind of rush in and harden that ice cream, but we'll rush this to the freezer. Our Boysenberry Oat Milk Sherbet has been sitting in the freezer overnight, and it's really just beautiful. You can kind of see how it's set up. It's hardened into somewhere in between a sorbet and a gelato texture, which is kind of exactly what we want. It's got this dense, creamy texture. And then when we bite into it, I think this is gonna be one of my favorite flavors. The oat milk is giving it this really intense creaminess. The berries are just bright and fresh, like straight from the start because of all those acids that we put in there. And then the flavor just immediately washes away and makes you just excited to eat into the next spoonful. This oat milk base is so versatile. Literally, you can do anything with it. In this case, we just roasted a little bit of berries, mixed them in. If you want to add a little bit of vanilla, chocolate, peanut butter, literally, it's endless. Leave comments with all of your renditions below. I really am excited to see. And subscribe to see 2 more of our videos. We're making a honey lavender ice cream and a birthday cakes and blackberries ice cream.